Hello, everyone. This is going to be a very different video than other videos I usually post. And I had mentioned the other day, actually, when I had done a video with Rebecca Rose, that I had kind of experienced a bit of an epiphany. And some of that was based upon what a friend had said. Not all of it, of course. I don't want to put a lot of weight on somebody, right? About being the hero of your own story. And it got me into a really interesting train or path. One which I had been following probably since childhood, actually. This goes quite a way back for me. And today I was given a message in a way. Actually, it's funny, another friend just came and had a similar message. It's like, oh, I guess, okay, so I guess this is the message being thrown out. But I want to explain some of the message. Before I actually deliver this piece. So it's not for everyone. I don't think everyone will resonate at all with what I was told. And I asked the animals that I work with, that I live with and have been with, for information concerning what is happening in the world of the humans at this time. And because I know that the animals to me, those are the masters. I don't look towards any human anywhere, any off-world being for information. If I need information, I go to the animals. And a lot of the information that they have, um, and I mean specific animals, is not going to be absorbed well by humans. So some of the information I receive, I won't share, because I don't think humanity is ready to receive it. I know some people would be ready to understand it, but others would have extreme amounts of resistance. And in the wisdom that is delivered by some of these animals, I'll ask mice, things like that. A mouse will come forward and give information concerning um, existence. This is existential. What I'm going to talk to you today is about, it is existential. Okay. So it's no lie, obviously, that I've lived with depression for a majority of my life. Um, and I don't blame anyone or anything for that. To me, depression itself, whenever it arises, is an epiphany moment. It's there to tell you something. And most humans will resist it. So what most humans do is go off and seek help. Anyway, it's YouTube, so I don't want to say about that. When in fact they're only bypassing what's actually going on. So I know a lot of people think, oh, it's simply a body process or whatever, and you're free to think that. You can think, like I said, I never. And there's so many people that try to superimpose this concept, and it means nothing to me one way or the other. They try to superimpose the fact that somehow I have to act a certain way, or I have to say things that they want me to say. I have to have beliefs that they have. This is a human condition, and we're going to talk about that, a little bit of that today. Now, when the animals speak, they're only speaking. They don't expect you to follow it, understand it, or embody it. I mean, you are free to think, do, and act whatever you like. And this is hard for humans because they don't understand freedom. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the animal said today about what freedom really is. And most humans don't understand it. They think they do, but they don't, or they're not willing to fully embrace it. And that's, again, what we're going to talk about today with this. So for an example of what's happening now in the disclosure community, which disclosure, in my opinion, is actually a deep state creation. Uh, it's become a chaotic swamp, a tornado of all kinds of peculiarities. But ultimately, and this is what the animals would say, what is your experience when you are scrolling all this stuff? When you're, oh, I watched this person, I watched this guy, blah, blah, I watched this and I watched that, and they said, and the Arcturians and the Pleiadians all said, blah, blah, blah. The animals will say, what is your experience when you watch this? Is it frantic? Is it a frenetic energy? Is it coming? Where is it coming from? I'm not going to answer that question because everyone has their own answer to that. The animals would say, why, in fact, they would ask in the first place, why are you looking for this? What do you hope to get out of it? And what does it feel like in your search for through all this stuff? What does it feel like? Why are you doing it? That's a personal question they would ask you. And yeah, I guess again, that the answer to that would be for me, it wasn't bringing me anything. I'm getting nothing from this. And I actually mentioned some of this with Rebecca Rose for my relationship with Ika and what does it bring me? And it brought me a combination of bliss and also extreme pain. So why would I want that? That was what, so the animals would ask, what do you get from this? Why do you think you need this? So it was coming from a place of a strange need that in fact didn't bring me what I wanted, I suppose. The same can be said about, well, why do you feel the need to go back to the Pleiades? I don't actually, now that they said that. Because they're asking the question is, what is it that you seek? What do you want in the eternity of things? What are you looking for? And my answer was, I guess, when I can find that place, it's a return to the cosmic oneness. It's a non-physicality, a desire to be in the non-physical realm. That's what I want. And then the animals were like, that's what you're looking for, right? That's, so it sort of emanated from a conversation I had with my mayor, Lido. Lido is a medicine hat paint. And when I'm in the field with them, when we're just hanging together out in the field and it's really peaceful and it's like nothing. It's like just nothing. It's just that moment of all of us together. And I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want. And I think it's again, this is a me. Again, it's not something that, and everything is a personal decision because you have to find that personal place of being. And I always remembered ever since I was little that I was always happy when I was alone with animals, alone. I want to be and that's where my depression comes from, is because I'm choosing. This is the key thing. Right now, I'm choosing to be here, rather than a hermit, which is where I will be when the time arises. If it's so, I don't actually attach myself to anything. What I wish will be that is to remove myself completely and live with the animals in that realm for that time and space. Um, and their response to that would be yes. So what they showed me in this message, and it came from Lido, it also came from an owl that stepped forward. And it was, imagine, this is the best way to, this is what I'm going to talk about. So imagine there's a cliff and overlooks the ocean. And the cliff is straight up and it's always being, pounded, right? And it's very rigid, as cliffs tend to be, made out of rock, right? They just sit there as a cliff. And the wind and the rain and all the weather, it's exposed to the weather, that big face of the cliff. And it's being beaten and it's just holding itself, for millennia, millions of years against all of this storm. And it's resisting it. And it feels like it has to do that. It has to be this cliff. And I have to stand there and resist. And there's this little rock, boulder, whatever, on the face of the cliff. And it's teetering there. It's gotten eroded and it's about ready to fall. But this little boulder is holding on. It's holding on to the cliff. Oh, no, I'm a part of this cliff. And I need to hold on to this cliff. And the little boulder's holding on, right? And the little boulder, it's holding on to the cliff against the wind, against the rain, against everything that's beating on it. And life is pretty rough with this little boulder as it clings to this cliff. But the ocean below is saying, why don't you just come down? We'd love to have you down here, in the water with us. And the little boulder is afraid. And it's like, no, 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 I have to be with the cliff. I have to be with the cliff. And the water says, well, when you're ready, and you release that belief that you have to be on this cliff, we're here for you down here in the water. So what the animals were showing was that, see, this is humans. The humans are the cliff. They've created an entire philosophy and world and way of being that is all about resistance, that is all about facing catastrophe and facing burdens for millions of years, over and over and over and over. It's just a belief system that you have to face these things. It's only belief. And every single human believes it. And they'll, like that little rock, they'll just hang on to all this stuff for year after year after year, and they're miserable. And they just they never see anything else other than clinging to this cliff face. And to me, this isn't just an Earth thing. It's also what's happening upstairs, everywhere else on other planets. It's a clinging, it's a manufacturing and a clinging to a supposed way of being, which doesn't really exist. So, for an example, and this is again what the animals show, we think about animals, right? Animals don't have anything. They don't have possessions. They're not bound to anything. They're not bound. And this is what, I don't care how high you go upstairs, Arcturian, whatever you want to label them. If they have stuff, which they do, they're bound. They're bound to their stuff. They're bound to a ship. But an animal is bound to nothing. It exists as is because it truly understands it needs nothing. He or she, I shouldn't say it. There is nothing you need. There is nothing you need to believe in. There is nothing you need to follow. There is nothing you need to cling to. That's all an illusion. So we just had some baby chicks. And it's cute. The mom is there. She decides she's gonna raise these an egg. They want to do this, right? And yes, it's part biological, but it's more than that. That's how humanity has tricked itself in understanding things as purely biological, because what is biological really is just a collection of atoms, right? And we know when you go, again, off planet, how that actually works. It's vibration of atoms that has a memory of itself to stay solid, because that's how you get teleported, where you can separate the atomic structure of a anything, right? And then it will remember and come back together. So when the hen sets the egg, she sits there, does her thing, and the baby hatches, and they have a bond for the time that is necessary. And the hen is an amazing mother. In fact, I always consider her the ideal of I think most animal mothers in the case, they are the ideal of what they need to be, and that's key. People would say, "Oh, that's terrible. This animal just leaves its babies or does whatever," but that is as it is, right? Why would you attribute anything negative to that? And your average human would be like, well, it's terrible, it's you can't, and it's all fear-based, and it's all lacking in fully understanding what existence really is. That anytime you exist anywhere, it's an experience. And I say it's meaningless, but it's just an experience. It isn't supposed to last for any length of time. This is something humans don't understand. They just live to live for as long as they like. Oh, you got to live 70, 80 years. Oh, this person died. They didn't live 70 years. Oh, that's not right, because you're not supposed to anything. Humanity, this is the key. Humanity, and on other planets as well, has created and fomented belief systems that aren't real. They don't exist, but they continually believe in these things. It makes zero sense, and this is what they were explaining to me today. Now, if you like it, if you want to be the cliff face, if you want to stand against the wind, and you think that's the way it should be, and you get something out of that, that's fine. They're not judging. There's no judgment here. None of this is judgment. And there's stuff the animals tell me that I can't tell humans because they would never get it. And in fact, if I were to say it right here, I'd get a list of comments from all these people. You're that's and my dog and he and my family and they and blah and I went through and it was awful and it was terrible and life is blah blah and they shouldn't and that should never. It's unfair. Blah. It's like an animal is just going to look at you and be like, everything you're saying, you're creating. But you can do that. They have no judgment. There's no judgment. The oneness of existence has no judgment. It's neither fair or unfair. It simply is. It's what you make of it. So you can believe that stuff's unfair, that bad stuff happened, and oh, I deserved all this, and I didn't deserve this, and I want, and I want, and I didn't get, and I need, and blah, blah, and I expect, and that's fine. It's just gonna accept whatever it is that you want, or you think you want, or other people told you you want. And most people live by what other people told them they want. Most people don't live in their own mind. They're living in what exactly. I mean, if you choose to run around looking for answers all over the place, that's fine. There's no judgment on that. You don't even have to question it. You can just continue to do it. You can run on a hamster wheel. You can work a job you hate. You can stay in relationships you don't like. You can give your life away in service to self to anything you want. Service to self, service to others, neither exists. That's a creation. That's a myth. And it doesn't matter where it came from. And actually it's kind of interesting because there was one fellow mentioned this and it kind of makes sense. If you want to keep playing Star Wars, go ahead. You can keep playing Star Wars, where there's heroes and villains and suffering and planets blowing up and fighting and all kinds of things. And it makes a great movie. And if you want that, you can have that. You can exist in that. Or you can choose not to. Again, there's no judgment. It's all about what works for you. But very few ever reflect. They just are like the cliff. They feel like they have to stand there and fight the wind. And others are like the boulder that at one point thought it should stay with the cliff and fight the wind because everybody else on the cliff is fighting the wind, right? But we're going to hear the story given to me again by the animals of the little boulder who made a different choice. And they explain to me what freedom is and what it isn't. And I don't think I have never heard this from any galactic race. I'm sure the animals on different planets, I'm just guessing, but I would assume that the animals on different planets would get this. They would understand what I'm saying here. And some people may follow disclosure because they want to know what's going to happen. Why do you need to know what's going to happen? Because how does that feel? How does it feel to get up every day and wonder about what's going to happen? If it feels great and you enjoy it, continue to do it. If it feels not so great, then you might want to look at it. Again, animals don't judge. It is up to you. You have a right to do whatever you want and think whatever you want and sacrifice yourself for whatever you want or not sacrifice for whatever you want and experience whatever it is you want to experience. But in our world, in the world of the animals, it's always a choice. You can choose. And ultimately, it comes down to a fixation on not understanding the ephemeral nature of everything. Everything is, yeah, but there was a deer and the mountain lion ate him, and that's terrible, and nature's terrible. It's all bad, blah, blah, blah. That's been going on for millions of years. You're projecting a perspective that may not be reflected in what those things were doing and experiencing. Because the deer would know that the moment of that experience is not eternal. It is ephemeral. And that deer may very well have experienced that thousands of times over. But the deer chose to incarnate again. A fractal of the deer chose to become the deer again. And a fractal of the mountain lion chose to become the mountain lion again. There were probably lifetimes of the mountain lion where it froze to death, where it starved to death. He or she, shouldn't say it. And that's okay. See, this is what the animals teach. Like, why are you so hung up on a dust in a Mojave Desert? You're obsessed with that little bit of moment, you know. Yeah, but that happened and it's terrible. And, oh, I got to go and whine and cry. No, you don't have to anything. You've been told, you've been shown by other humans that that is how you should react to something. See, most humans don't even understand that everything they do and think and feel isn't theirs. It was given to you. You were told to do that. Oh, you're supposed to feel sad because this happened. You're supposed to be happy because this happened. You're supposed to this. You're supposed to that. You're not supposed to anything. This is what the animals teach. And they don't expect you to believe it. They don't expect that. So when we look at some of the wisest beings, the insects, so those beings that have and continue to express in physicality for hundreds of millions, probably trillions of years, their essence. If you take a mosquito, here is a being that's been expressing itself for millions and millions and millions of years. That's wisdom. It's just being. And it's choosing to be, you know. That's what's key. But I like I said, I don't think I can express a lot of what they teach. But I don't have to. Because everyone can access it if they choose to. It's not forced on you. But ultimately, what the animals are trying to say is, are you being the essence of you, or are you only embodying an essence that has been placed upon you out of pressure? That's key. So take an example of someone who works a job they don't want to work. That's a choice to stay in that job. And I say, well, if I don't stay in that job, you know, I won't be able to afford my apartment. Again, that's a choice. Why do you want to afford your apartment? Why do you feel you need to afford your apartment? You don't need to, you're choosing to. You don't need to do any of those things. They're all choices. So you choose that life. And you say, well, you know, I'll be homeless. And okay, that's also a choice. But you're not making any decisions based upon what your essence asks or is demanding. So that is where things like depression appear. Someone who lives just to live because they think they're supposed to live a certain way. So this person, and many have done this, can quit their job, get rid of their apartment, and live off grid or live free. You don't have to have a roof over your head. Oh, but then all these bad things. The idea that they're bad is an opinion. They're not necessarily bad. All of this is judgment. Because this person could decide, you know, I'm going to live 70 years that I'm going to regret. That's going to be painful most of those years. Or I could live maybe a shorter lifespan, but one that's more aligned to who I am. So that person may decide, I'm going to get rid of everything. I'm going to go live in the woods or whatever. And maybe I'll starve this winter, but I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be free at that end instead of being a slave for another 40 years. But that's again, there's no judgment. That's something that one person decides to do. So we can apply the same thing to disclosure. So maybe within who knows what time frame, you're going to meet up again with your family and life is good, maybe. Maybe a cataclysmic Earth event happens and the planet gets destroyed. Maybe AI takes over. Maybe the deep state takes over. Maybe there's a new world order. Maybe all these things. Maybe it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's irrelevant, ultimately. Planets come and go. Races come and go. Species come and go. This has been happening forever and it will continue to happen. So when we allow our thoughts and ways of being to be controlled by that which is outside of us, by dictating to us how we should think, how we should feel, how we should act, what we should want, that's giving away your power. And even if your star family comes and everything's wonderful, you're still giving away your power. If that's not aligned, if that's not what you really deeply would resonate with. You think so, right? You're told you should. This is what the animals teach. So this is something that star people have to understand. This is something that they have to learn. You know, because, oh, is there suicide off planet? Yes. Of course. It's not just here. It's not just Terrans. It happens other places. Again, based upon beliefs that have been fed to races. So those races, like some of the grays, like some of the insectoids that decided to become more synthetic, that chose to go to AI, and this is the AI thing. Who is anyone to tell any race that it is not to become more AI? This is what we're hearing. You're not supposed to do that. Who says? Yeah, but you can't, blah, blah. It's like you're forcing a reality. If the Terrans decide to go AI, that is their choice. That is their choice. They have there's nothing wrong with that. And this is what Terrans and other races can't understand. You have to allow it because it's the choice. You can't force a choice. You can't force. So none of us know, and upstairs doesn't know what's actually going to happen. You can scroll for hours and waste your entire life staring at a screen, looking at what everybody's saying and scrounging for evidence to support something. You don't see the animals doing that because they're allowing. They're living there. The giraffe is being a giraffe right now. Your cat is being a cat right now. The sparrow, the hawk, they're being them. They're just living. They're not waiting for something. They're existing in there now. So I'm gonna shut up. And like I said, none of this is the animals don't expect you to follow anything. They don't judge. They are. Jessie Crow, she's crowing us, yes. It is. So it's not a path, it's not a way, it's not anything. It's just you asked me, the animals, I asked them, and they answered. Now they don't, you can, this is what humans do, right? Somebody says something, everybody fights. You don't, I don't believe that, and you don't have to. Why do you feel such a burden, such a compulsion to control something? Again, that's your choice. You don't have to. You're this, and I don't like what you said, and I don't want to, and I'm my friends, and you hurt me, and you're making me question my life. And no one's doing anything. That's all in your own mind. The animals, the universe, no one cares. Nobody cares. If you want to live in a miserable place, that's your choice. Yeah, but I got a kid to support. That's a choice. You choose to support the kid. You don't have to. That's terrible. You can't say that. You're a terrible person. You can also think that. So you can live in a forced way, like the cliff. They're going to show you. You can live like that cliff, a life of what you believe it should be and what you need to do based all these belief systems that are fed by all kinds of things into your world. You can believe all that stuff. The animals are not making any judgment on any of that stuff. You do as you wish. And then you can feel like so this is case in point, right? Someone who's in a family situation, puts themselves into a family. You have to have a family. No, you don't. You can choose that. So they got married and now they got kids and now they're trapped. They have to work and work and work and work. And it's not making them happy. There's a lot of people with depression because of this. The depression comes from, most likely, the fact that they're living a life and staying within a life that no longer aligns with them. In fact, they may have put themselves in this life without any real decisions. They let other people make decisions. How will they look at me if I don't get married? How will they look at me if we get married and don't have kids? How will they? And none of those theys ever had any interest in your happiness. In fact, they don't even understand what that would mean. They don't have that kind of capacity. All they are is that cliff face. That's all they've ever known. They never occur to them that there's anything other than being that cliff face. And you believed what they believed. And you lived their life. You carried their burden. This is what the animals are going to explain. You chose to carry their burden. Their belief systems is a burden. You chose to carry it. And now you're carrying a burden. And you either choose to carry it or you choose to release it. When the hen raises a chick, they do so by choice for a certain amount of time. And then you'll notice it's instantaneous. That bond is broken. And the hen pushes the chick away. She wants nothing to do with it ever again. It's instantaneous. From 1 minute, they're bonded, the next minute, it's over. And that is so. There's no hard feelings on either side. The hen goes her way, the chick goes, now is an older teenager, goes the chick's way. So humans can place any kind of judgment or belief system on this that they so choose to. Because humans burden themselves constantly with belief systems. And if you want to escape the matrix, again, it's a choice. Do you want to escape the matrix? Or do you want to stay in it? And it's not a black and white thing either. But if you follow human belief systems, you're staying in the matrix. That's the matrix. Whether it's on Era, whether it's on Sirius B, wherever it is, there's a matrix. This is what, again, I'm going to share right now. So I'm going to, because I have to read this, I'm going to disappear because no one wants to see me reading. I assume that. Maybe you do, but well, too bad. You're not going to. I'm going to choose that at the moment, but I would prefer it would resonate that I show owls. So I'm going to fiddle here for a bit to pull up the. And we have owls. So the animals are going to speak of this thing called the cosmic whole. And they said it's releasing narratives, releasing identities, releasing all separation from the cosmic oneness. All seeking is pointless because it assumes a base made of lack. I must seek because I do not possess. All that you seek is already yours because you exist as that which is all. And the all is eternal in timeless peace. We can rest. There is never anything to need. There is only surrender. You can choose to play any game. You can choose to release from it. Your home is nowhere. It is in the everywhere. All transcends as the plumes rise from a fire. That which was the embers only knew they were really the smoke. And they became it, glowing with the radiance of epiphany. For those who can only seek will only crawl, grasping at chaff in the wind. There is nothing to seek. Everything is an illusion. It only materializes from intention. Remove the intention, and the fog burns away. As the sand consumes, as rivers erode stone, there is no permanence. What do you cling to? Grasping at clouds. There is no resistance, only stepping away. Be the leaf on the shore or the leaf in the rushing stream. It is your choice. Everything you wish exists simply by stepping away, by leaving the river, by turning from the wind. The rock clinging to the cliff eventually falls. Why are you leaning into the wall, lashed by winds, when you can be embraced by the arms of the sea? Do you embed yourself as the rock, sealed to instability, jostled by the mirage of being always bound to serve the ephemeral? Whatever you are chained to now is only a ghost. You only nurture ghosts. You simply carry the weight on your back instead of laying it down. Whose creations, whose delusions, whose desires, whose madness, whose dreams, whose burdens are you carrying? Why do you carry others' burdens? The burdens they themselves manifested. They are not yours, but you choose them. That is fine. They live in the madness of a sieve, wishing to hold back the air. And as the stone teeters yet clings to its own crumbling base, enduring distress for the sake of enduring distress, the waves roll and reach for it. The stone clings to all it knows. It only knows to cling, to clutch, to wince, to endure. Freedom is not only the release of chains, it is the recognition that you are even wearing them. You cannot release the chains that you choose. You cannot release the chains that you don't even know you're wearing. You cannot release chains that you fear to release. And the desire to no longer bear them, yours or anyone else's, is a choice. The deepest freedom is released upon the severing of others' chains. The cliff chooses to stand rigid against time and allows itself to be cracked and beaten to dust. But the one stone that releases itself from this and now rests in the arms of the sea, loved by the fish, caressed by the waves, and enveloped by the seaweed. When we sever from the cliff, we let go. And instead of being only a piece of something else, we become the whole of ourselves. You do not need to carry the burden of those who refuse to let go, who refuse to be whole. You can be whole. They can carry their own burden. You do not need to serve or be served. And all of that is released when you become the whole of yourself.